viewers, you are welcome to our program, Eyewitness. As you know by now, this is a conversation with Nigerians who have contributed significantly to the public good, to the community good, who are interested in the public interest rather than their personal interest. What we try to do is to make an argument that not every Nigerian is focused on personal aggrandizement, is corrupt, that we have many people who devote their lives with the objective, of living their country and their society better than they found it. Today, the theme our conversation on is hard drugs and extremism in northern Nigeria. And our guest is a national hero. She's somebody who has devoted her entire life to service of others. She's also somebody who is extremely knowledgeable, and I feel privileged to have learned a lot from her over the past few years. Her name is Dr. Mero Mandara, and she is currently an advisor to the Borno State Governor. When I introduce her fully, or rather she will introduce herself fully. And Dr. Mandara, let me just come straight to the next sequence, which is for you to talk to us about your background, primary school, secondary school, which community did you grow up, so that our viewers will get to know you.
Thank you very much, Malenjibo. As you said, my name is Mero Mandara. I was born in Bukuru, very close to Jos. At that time when I was born, it was a big trip to move from Bukuru to Jos. So I grew up in Bukuru. I was born on the 5th of June, 1965. My father was an ex-military man. He fought in the Second World War. So I was privileged to have a military father. My father was from Borno State and my mother from Bauchi State. So I grew up in Bukuru. I attended LEA Primary School, Bukuru, which is somewhere towards at the bypass of Bukuru, on your way to on your way to Gel or around Gel. I attended primary school there, and then I went on to Girls High School, Gindri, which is a missionary school in Gindri, still Plateau State, somewhere near Mangu. At the time I went to secondary school, I was the only Muslim girl in my set. So I grew up with all my classmates in all the sets of our school were Christians. And at that time, actually, there were 5 of us that were Muslims in the whole school. So that was where I went to secondary school in Jos. So if you like, I was bread and buttered in Plateau. And having finished secondary school in 1982, I got admission to Ahmadu Bello University School of Basic Studies, where I was admitted like a lot of other young students to do basics in preparation for medicine. But that wasn't my first choice. My first choice was to read engineering and to read piloting. Engineering, I got admission not in ABU but in Kaduna Polytechnic, and I wanted to go to university. So I declined the Kaduna offer to go and study engineering. And at that time, I really wanted to be a pilot, but girls were not taken into the school of piloting. So, and then every smart girl or boy went to study medicine or engineering. And so therefore, without a passion, I went into medicine actually at the very beginning. Started SBS in ABU. At that time, my mom was a bit sick. And when I did the summer term, which was the JAM-BITE term, admission came out in JAM. And I got medicine direct in University of Jos. So I moved from ABU to Jos to study the 6-year program in medicine, where I finished in 1988, and then went back home to Maiduguri. And that was my longest stay in Maiduguri, the first 1 year of housemanship. After housemanship, then I did, I went for NYSC in Zaria. By that time I had married. I married at the age of 19. After finishing my first 3 years of medical school, I was 19, I got married. And my husband was in Zaria, so I moved to Zaria to do my housemanship. Following my housemanship in Zaria, my NYSC in Zaria, I immediately went back to the university to start a postgraduate in obstetrics and gynecology. Where I graduated, the usual postgraduate there is 5 years for obstetrics and gynecology. So I became a consultant obstetrician gynecologist in, it must have been 2009. And then I moved to, I became a consultant there in ABU. Started teaching obstetrics and gynecology, and of course part of the training in postgraduate for the West African College of Surgeons is that you teach. So I started teaching soon after NYSC up to the time I finished my postgraduate in obstetrics and gynecology. And then a year later I moved to Abuja to be one of the pioneer staff at National Hospital. In between all that I did a lot of other things, but this is basically the academic trajectory. But way back when I just started my residency, after my NYSC and started my residency in Zaria, I was concerned about, so in obstetrics and gynecology, we do women's health. One of the key things I noticed was a lot of the ailments and diseases that you find in obstetrics and gynecology are associated with women that are poor and women that have no education. In fact, in my undergraduate, I did a study on vesicovaginal fistulae. And so therefore, when I went to the university, when I started my postgraduate, that shaped the way I did everything subsequently, because I noticed, and most of my postgraduate researches are also around that, linking relationship between poverty, inequity, and actually health.
That's the type of situation that turns one into a Marxist or a communist. Class struggle. It's the poor that suffer. How do you define yourself ideologically?
Ideologically, I actually define myself as a human being because I believe that any full human being should be concerned about social justice, should be concerned about equity, should be concerned about what makes people human and what dehumanizes people. So for me, these are the crux of the essence of life, that we should all be human and we should support each other to be human. And I find it difficult when a human being doesn't care about social injustice. I wonder if you're really a human being or you're something else, because that's the centrality of humanity.
Therefore, a humanist. I just wonder, you've explained your pathway to being a humanist through your professional line of work. What other factors led you to be so committed to improving the lives of girls and women in this country?
Growing up, I was if I had any obsession, it's with reading. So as early as when I was in secondary school, Form 3, I was reading books by Rumi. I was reading books by Sayyid Qutb. I was reading books about Islam, about Christianity, about all kinds of religions. I was fascinated by world religions and the commonality of the centrality of God and social justice in that. So I did read a lot. And the people that really have had impact on my life, and one of such people is actually Sayyid Qutb, and also the writings of people like the Sudanese Hassan Turabi. And there's a lady in Pakistan, I think her book was the most transformational I had. I was in Form 1 when I read the books of Maryam Jamila, Maryam Jamila was a Muslim convert. She was British. And she spoke about the situation of what Islam said about women and what she saw in Pakistan, because she was married to a Pakistani. That opened up my mind to be able to read. So I read about what every religion said about women. And I saw that there's such a disparity between what the books say and what happens. And I saw that there was really something fundamentally wrong. So that, and physically here, I've had a tremendous influence by Hajj Bilkisu Yusuf. Hajj Bilkisu Yusuf, if you like, was my get-to encyclopedia when I'm lazy to read. I would just get to her, call her up, ask her, and that's it. Sheikh Ahmed Lemu, I was very close to Sheikh Ahmed Lemu. He's a father figure to me, and his wife, and I cherish them. So I get a lot of, I was privileged to have been spoiled by a lot of older people with wisdom that they just keep sharing and sharing and sharing. And my husband has been phenomenal in trying to push me to go beyond my bounds. When I was younger, if we're going to quarrel on anything, it's because I didn't keep standards. If you say you're going to go for this meeting, you must go for the meeting whether you're sick or for as long as you're alive. And he got me to read. When I married at 19, he was 14 years older than me, so he was wiser and smarter and everything. But when we go to visit his friends, he never allowed me to go and sit with other wives. He says, no, you cannot go. You go and greet them, you come back. So I always sat with his friends, and I listened to all the discussions they had, you know, his friends, with all of his friends. So most of his friends end up being my friends as well. So I was able to learn around people that were much older than me.
People watching us may not know who your husband is, since you don't use the same surname.
Yeah, very interesting. When I got married, he asked me if, are you going to change your name? I said, no, my father, I love my father, and my father did this. And he said to me, you would actually be doing a big disservice to your dad if you change your name. And also growing up and being married to a Hausa man, and a Fulani man, he likes to call himself a Fulani man. And growing up as a girl in northern Nigeria, I also know divorce is real. And usually there's a crisis of personality when you're divorced. So I really try to protect myself by maintaining myself, my identity, my father's name, so that just in the event there's a divorce, I can still be who I am. So, so his name is. Oh my God! The reality in life is nothing is too late. There's nothing too late on earth.
Okay, his name is.
His name is Usman Bugaje.
Who everybody knows.
His name is Usman Bugaje.
You mentioned Hajia Bilkisu. I remember many years ago, the two of you were explaining to me the scholarship scheme you ran for young girls from poor families to go through education. And that was one of the most inspiring stories I had about how so many Nigerians are engaged in charity quietly, privately, without making a lot of noise about it. But just to give others an idea, what is it you've been doing over the years in that regard?
Thank you very much. So for me, the inspiration to start that came from my father. I was extremely close to my father. And he was always saying that, I mean, that whatever you give is the only thing you have. And whatever you keep to yourself is what you don't have. And growing up as children, my father was, we used to think he didn't love us, actually. Because when I was one of his younger children, as we grew up, he would always talk to us about his dream of dying and not leaving nothing to us. He had that big dream that when he dies, he's going to leave nothing to us. So he always tell us, you either go to school, it's your choice. And he used to spoil us like spoiled brats. And so for me, giving was like the thing that you must do. So Hajia Bilkisu and I, of blessed memory, and a very close friend of ours, Dr. Hamid Buboy, actually, the three of us, had a lot of discussion around what we needed to do. But Hajia Bilkisu and I in particular realized that the reason that we're who we are simply because our parents had the wisdom to give us education. Well, like any ordinary girl from northern Nigeria, I might just be selling akara kose on the street. I might also be in the train station now selling water, pure water or anything, but for the wisdom that our dads gave us and saw the need to give us the best education that they could afford at that time. And so we thought that the one important thing that we needed to do is also to ensure that as many girls as we were able to are given opportunities to go to school. So when we were in Zaria, we decided to start a scholarship scheme. And at the beginning, we had 2 girls. She supported one, I supported one. And we took these girls from very poor families, put them in school. And what we do is take them from Form 1 through Form 6 and see what happens. Alhamdulillah, the first 2 we did, one is a pharmacist, one is a lecturer. And since then, we thought, oh, we never stopped. And what we were doing at that time was we look at the statistics data and see places where girls do not go to school. And we go to those communities, get girls, just girls that are interested, just a spark in their eyes that shows they want to be different, they want to do something. And we'll take them according to our means, put them in secondary school, pay for them through secondary school. And then after secondary school, we let them go. We started this unofficially, just from us, and we were harassing our friends and anybody who came across us to just support a girl. And formally in 2003, we registered the organization Girl Child Concerns. And since then, we've never stopped. We've trained a few thousands of girls to finish secondary school. We focus mainly in the north of Nigeria. Recently, we've extended to Ethiopia. We've started working now in Ethiopia, and one of our fans, a girl in Ghana, has also started GCC Ghana. So we're gradually expanding. But with the advent of Boko Haram, schools in Borno, Yobe were closed for some time. And at that time, about 10 years ago, we then decided to take children from Borno and Yobe and take them to Kaduna, where there was relative security, so that they could go to school. And we started with 100, and Nasir El-Rufai was very good to us. He offered us admission, but we paid all the school fees and everything. And we take the girls, and they stay in school for 1 year, and then once a year, they go back home. At that time, it was very interesting because we mobilized women in Kaduna State, so that during holidays, when schools are closed, what do we do with 100 girls? Women in Kaduna will adopt them. Some will take 3. Bilkisu will take 5 into her house. I will take some. And they then became part of our families. And at some stage, when we even tried to change their foster moms, they said, no, we will not change. And so we have some of these girls now have graduated from the university. 2 of such girls are working with us in GCC. One is completing her master's. The other one is getting married this month, and she's also doing her master's. We've had, so it goes. During the Chibok girls, when the first escaped Chibok girls were recovered, Governor Kashim gave us in GCC the first 55 girls that everybody was abusing him, that he didn't care, he doesn't know where the girls were. He kept quiet because we had a pact with him that if we take these girls, you cannot say they are with us. You have to keep quiet. And honestly, he kept quiet until when there was a lot of pressure. I remember I was monitoring. One time he said Kaduna, and one time he said Katsina, and he said Jos. But the girls were in actually Jos and Katsina. All the Christian girls, we put them in a school in Jos, and then the Muslims, we took them to Katsina. And one of my happiest things is that they graduated, and in May this year, I was at Notre Dame, and 4 of the girls from GCC 2 from Chibok, 2 from the Jos communal crisis, graduated from University of Notre Dame, where we got scholarship, and one of them, Dina, was actually the best graduating student in the School of Languages. All 4 of them now are doing their masters in the US, one in Cambridge, in Boston, the other in Boston College, 2 in Berkeley. So all 4 of them are doing their masters. Many other in many other Nigerian universities. But now with the return of peace in Borno State, we have opened a school, and we currently have about 350 girls in our girls' academy. All of them we took from internally displaced camps, and all of them are on boarding. So they're all boarding students. We didn't have money to build a school. We didn't have a school. The governor of Borno State borrowed us a school, a boarding school, where all these girls are there. So we're responsible for their feeding, for their clothing, for everything you need. And for the first 2 years, we didn't allow them to go home, because home was IDP camp. And we'd given them so much dignity that we didn't want them to go to IDP camp and start even thinking that they're IDPs. But what is amazing about those girls, we took them all between the ages of 10 and 12. Within 9 months, they were able to read and write. And 75 of them passed from 1 exam, from nothing. So that proves that with good planning and good curriculum and good teachers, actually you don't need 6 years to do primary school. Our girls did primary school in 9 months. 75% of them did primary school in 9 months, and then another 100 did primary school in a year. So within 2 years of nothing, nearly 100 of them are now preparing for JSS3 exam. So it's not impossible. It can be done. All we need is leadership, all we need is a commitment, and all we need is really a strong sense that our children deserve the best. Every child deserves the best.
And of course, you need a good plan, which you've always had.
Yeah, you've got to super plan. You've got, because it's expensive. We spend about approximately 400,000 on each girl every year, paying for their tuition, paying for the teachers, their feeding, little clothing, their sanitary wares, everything. We spend approximately 400,000 on each girl every year.
This is a very inspiring story, but you did mention the issue of IDP camps. I know in Borno State there's been a lot of controversy. Your governor has often attacked international NGOs for their conduct and questioned why we need ID camps, which was seen some sort of as dens of iniquity, as it were. What's really the issue about IDP camps and international NGOs?
So for you to understand where the governor comes, just imagine what it is. 12 to 14 years ago, Borno State 14 years ago was bedeviled by the insurgency, and 25 of the 27 local governments had Boko Haram massively occupying those places. People were killed, people ran away for their lives. Camps were created in Jere and Maiduguri, where people were settled to be able first to be alive, and then to have some sustenance and to heal from the trauma of what they went through. The international NGOs came and helped. There's no way we could have survived without them. The federal government, a lot of support to ensure people were alive. And people settled down and were alive. As the fight continued, the military got some successes, and several local governments were freed. As I speak to you now, there are people in 26 of the 27 local government. Even in Malam-Fatori, the last one, which was attacked a few weeks ago, there were people 2 weeks ago. If we had this interview, I'll tell you categorically, we have people in the 27 local governments. And now we still have people in camp in Malam-Fatori. It's just that they haven't moved to their houses. So when we have peace now, relative peace, people need to start picking the pieces of their lives. And when the governor was doing campaign, people were asking, people are very proud. They want to be able to earn a living. They want to be able, men, you know, our people want to be the heads of the family. They want to have dignity, and they want to be able to bring up their children. So people kept telling us that they're tired of staying in IDP camps. If you saw some of the IDP camps in Borno, if you look at the Muna camp, was adjudged to be the worst IDP camp in the world. In Europe, you cannot keep a dog there. You cannot keep a pig there. In Nigeria, you cannot keep a pig there. So when this pressure came, the governor kept telling them, yes, I hear your pain. We will return you. But there's no way we can return you until the military gives us a sign that these places are secure.
Safe, yeah.
So we developed a playbook, if you like, we developed a plan whereby we monitored everywhere together with the military. Once the military say this place is safe, they also tell us we need additional X, Y, Z to make it even secure. For example, they will say we need to build a trench around the capital. We need to put observation tower. We need you to bring out vigilantes to come there and stay there. We need the police there. We need civil security agents. And once we have all that, the people that have been yearning, they've been yearning to go back home. We go back, we profile them. We profile them generally in the night. We go out between 12 and 1 a.m. and we finish profiling by 5. Why? Because there are people who are in town, who are not IDPs, who come into the camp in the morning to collect food. In fact, one man that was caught in one of the IDP camps, he had a shop. His account had 8 million naira. And yet he was coming to collect money. And somebody recognized him and said, no, 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 this man has a shop. So they followed him. So people took advantage of that. And so therefore people were very tired and they want to come home. But because we know the international convention, it has to be voluntary. So we went to these camps, took profile of people, and we asked people, if you want to go back to your local government capital, write your name. If you want to stay in Maiduguri, write your name. If you want to remain in camp, write your name. So those that want to go back home, we did all we could within what we had to build new houses. We have we've built thousands of houses across the state in the local government capitals. People who had a hut, we give you 2-bedroom with a toilet, with katanga, with a fence round, enough space for you to do your outside kitchen, and you can actually have enough space to do 2 more bedrooms if you wish. And we had them in blocks of 4, so 2 facing this way, 2 facing that way. And we did that in a way that was really beautiful because it was not a contract. It was direct job, and the job was done by IDPs. So they work on the houses, we pay them for their job, and when it is finished, we give them to live in, and it is their home.
So it's direct labor by beneficiaries. Direct
labor by beneficiaries. So once we did that, then we came to the camps and said, okay, so those of you, for example, say from Auno, we're moving you to Auno. Those of you from Bama, those of you from Ngala will take you there. And those of you from Mafa will take you there. So we're taking camp by camp. And so therefore, as a result of that, we did what we call camp closure and camp merger. Those who don't want to leave, we move them out completely to their homes. Those who want to go into town, they go into town. Those who want to merge, we put them in a new camp, in another camp, so that we're able to close camps. One of the first camps we closed is Mongolis, the former Bokolis. It was a school. It was turned into a camp. So all the children that were going to that tertiary institution were at home. So when we closed that, we opened the school.
Okay.
When we closed the stadium camp, we opened the stadium. When we closed Teachers Village, we opened Teachers Village so that teachers would have their residences. Now, you said about, and then for us, when we do that, we also have procedures we follow. For any village we return, there has to be housing, either new or repaired. There has to be a marketplace. There has to be a place of worship. There has to be a police force, a police post. There has to be water. In some of those that were supported by, say, NEDC, they even have solar. They have more light than you in Abuja. They have solar light. And then as they go, because we want them to have dignity and start being independent, we give every male head of, first, every household, we give them food that will last 3 months.
Okay,
we give them non-food items. We give each male head of household 100,000 to start as a capital. Each female head of household 100,000. And each wife who has a husband 50,000 to start capital. So that's what we do. I
think it's a very comprehensive approach. Thank you so much for this brief. We now have to take a break. Viewers, we'll be right back after this break.
Now, as part of efforts to support Africa's goal of strengthening...
Now, looking at the activity chart, as you can see right here, a total volume of 130...
a Boko Haram crisis that at that time was restricted to Yobe.
How secure are they? You can see security men with blood.
This is the road leading up to the...
Already, if you look at England squad, you are looking at EPL, you are looking at their names. You are not looking at...
Welcome back, viewers, to this very exciting and enlightening discussion with Dr. Mero Mandara, who has just briefed us about the determination of the Borno State government to improve the lives and livelihoods of the victims of the insurgency who've been living in terrible camps. They've been engaging these IDPs, as she has explained, and those who offer or agree to move back to their communities are moved back when and if security is provided, are provided accommodation, are provided resources to resume their lives independent of the dependency that they experience in the IDP camps. Dr. Mandara, just remind us, you have a very long title today. What is your exact job title today? I have it somewhere, but just tell us.
Okay. My job role is Special Advisor and Coordinator for Sustainable Development, Partnerships and Humanitarian Support to His Excellency, the Governor of Borno State.
Okay. Now, you see, it's quite long. But just before taking this job, you had a big job with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and everybody who gets such a prestigious and well-paid jobs wouldn't go to work for a governor. What were you doing for the Gates Foundation, and how does that relate to the work you are doing today?
Thank you. It was really a privilege for me to be the founding country representative for the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So I supported the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to set up the office in Nigeria. And during the stint 5-year period I worked at the Gates Foundation, the budget for Nigeria, annual budget, rose from about 100 million to over 250 million annually. It's such
Naira.
a privilege. Dollars.
Oh, dollars. You have to always state because it's a load of difference.
So it's such a privilege for me to have the opportunity to work at the Gates Foundation, where the motto is all lives have equal value. So that's the motto in Gates Foundation, all lives have equal value. And while I was there, I had the opportunity to have worked across different sectors in this country, health, where it's my expertise, to also learn about agriculture, to learn about financial services for the poor, supporting the central government of Nigeria, which is financial inclusion program, looking at nutrition and equity in nutrition and malnutrition, and so on and so forth. I also had an opportunity to see what happens in other countries where the Gates Foundation also invested, and also to work very, very closely with the Aliko Dangote Foundation that was working mainly in nutrition at that time. So that was really a privilege. But it also gave me an opportunity to see what can be done actually with good planning. It's not so much the amount of money that the Gates Foundation puts in the country, but the fact that there's a plan, that you follow the plan by timeline, and you actually have boxes to tick, who is doing what, and you work in a very sophisticated metrics. That gave me the tools I need to be able to support where I can to make a difference. And after I left Gates Foundation, after 5 years, I actually worked for Children Investment Fund Foundation as a senior fellow in the UK for 2 years. I was supporting them to actually do what I did in Gates in Ethiopia and Kenya, help them set up many of their offices and move decision from London to Kenya and Ethiopia. So I had an opportunity to now, while I was at SIF, mainly spending about 50% of my time in the UK, I had an opportunity to sit and think, what do I really want to do? Having reached 50 years of age, what else do you want? Do I have another 50? And what else do I need to do? While I was at the Gates Foundation and continued to do my education, what I explained to you, but on Saturdays and Sundays, because you have to have very sharp clarity of time. This is the paid time of Gates Foundation. You cannot do anything that's yours. So I had to create. I worked 7 days a week. I had staff doing things, and I was giving them guidance and intellectual support and so on and so forth. And I said, okay, this is what I have passion for. Why don't I just go and do what I want to do? And I've known the governor for a very long time, and we worked together when he was commissioner for RRR, and we share a lot of passion for changing communities. So when he asked me how I could support him, I said, yes, I'm happy to support you, but I'm happy to support you in your own capacity. And so therefore we sat down, we agreed what I should support him with, and there I am.
Fascinating. Dr. Mandara, the problem with you is that you've done so much in your short life. What I really wanted us to spend time on, we are already losing a lot of our time, is the problem of hard drugs that has really afflicted northern Nigeria. And I know for very many years you've campaigned that Nigerians should wake up and meet the challenge of hard drugs. And you've, for a very long time, demanded from the Nigerian government that they ban some of those cough mixtures, for example, that many people were becoming addicted to, and they never responded. I was personally very annoyed when the BBC basically copied their work, did one program, and suddenly the federal government woke up and said, this is a problem. But you'd been telling them for years, and they never listened. Tell us a bit about what the problem is with this drug addiction in northern Nigeria and where we are on it today. Okay, so don't be angry with BBC, because I was part of the background in BBC, in the sweet coding. I know they used a lot of your material, but I'm angry with the Nigerian government. We should have listened to you earlier. Yeah. So, and quite frankly, this is one of the areas that I'm very sad about. And this is one area that, in my opinion, we haven't moved an inch. And if anything, it is eating us like a cancer. Now, when we were children, even taking kola nut was for old people. And children who smoke were seen, unless you're from Katsina or Sokoto or Bauchi, you were seen as bad, just to smoke cigarette. And then suddenly we now wake up that literally half of our population are drug addicts in one form or the other. Is that so high? Is that high. What is put forward is just a drop in the ice, a drop in the sea. The reality is that, and I relate with a lot of women, I relate with a lot of mothers, as a physician, as a gynecologist, and also as a friend, as somebody. A lot of women, my age, younger, are on drugs because they're not able to sleep. Drug addiction is not until you're on the street. Drug addiction is being enslaved or being addicted to a particular drug that you cannot function without that. And I was part of the Presidential Advisory Committee that General Marwa headed to look at drug abuse in Nigeria. I headed the subcommittee for the Northeast. In Gombe, we discovered that those that are selling the drugs do not take the drug. And if any one of those selling takes the drug, they actually kill them. So it's a cartel. What are these drugs? Give us some examples. God. Luckily, at least codeine has been banned in cough syrup. It has made it so expensive that it's not easy now to be a drug addict. And those young people that have not become addicts have been saved. So at least that. Codeine. Marijuana, is that it? Marijuana, yeah. Now they even have things like ecstasy. They have, in the very poor community, they sniff ammonia from pit latrine. Children take the feces of lizards and mix in a concoction. Oh God. To smoke. So it's a wide range from depending on the money you have. A lot of people now cannot sleep without Lexatin, without sleeping pills. And we also have to tell ourselves the truth. There's no extended family in northern Nigeria that does not have at least one drug addict. No extended family, including mine. So we've got to wake up and tell ourselves the truth. As they say in Hausa, but in my opinion, at least with the coming of Marwa, there's been some sanity. But NDLEA cannot on its own stop drugs in this country. It doesn't have the wherewithal to stop drugs. Every member of the community has to be involved. And I'll tell you something that happened when we did sweet codeine and codeine was banned. At that time, I was going around, it coincided very close to Ramadan, and I was going around from state to state talking to women during Ramadan and so on and so forth. Women in a village in Nasarawa State agreed to gang up because they know the chemist where drugs are sold. They ganged up and they went and burnt the chemist.
And that sent signal in that village. They were women. They went and burnt it. Until today that I'm saying, nobody knew it was them. And I said, good done, well done. We need to help our government. I'm so sorry.
You can't support arson on a TV program.
Pardon?
Arson. It's a crime.
No, I'm not supporting crime. I'm asking women and men to protect themselves.
Okay.
If you have somebody coming to your community and selling drugs to destroy your children, the minimum you owe yourself a responsibility is to get that person out of your community. That's the minimum. You talk to the person to get out, you report to the police. If all fails, you take him the way you want to take him, out of your community. Because the alternative is you're going to have 50 and 100 crazy children that are of no use, that will be thieves, that will be stealing, that will do things that are criminal. So for me, fighting drug is something that every Nigerian must stand up to do. The government must do. And there's something that for nearly 10 years now, NDLEA has been asking government to do, and the government of Nigeria and the parliament has failed to do. And I'll say it on TV today, that anybody that is going to be having a government appointment, a minister, a CEO of government parastatal, or whatever for that matter, as they do SSS screening, as they do his criminal screening, they must do NDLEA screening. Because NDLEA knows those people that are the drug barons that are sitting as heads of organizations in our government. That should not be acceptable. And I challenge our parliament to please ask NDLEA to do a screening on anybody coming to you before bowing. And then for your people in INEC to also do a drug screening before giving certificate to any member of parliament that will go and screen the others. You'll be shocked at the number of weeding that will happen in this in this country. But we've got to be serious until we're able to actually stand up the consequences and face the reality and stop lying to ourselves. We'll continue to be in trouble. But the beautiful part of drug addiction is this, and that's also the beautiful part of inequity and fighting for inequity. If we don't fight drug addiction, if we don't fight social injustice and inequity, you know what will happen? No. It will consume us, including Jibo and Miro. We'll be in our house, we can't sleep. It doesn't matter how high our fence is. It doesn't matter what bulletproof we have.
They'll come for us.
They will come for us, and that will be a beautiful day I'll look forward to if we don't do the right thing.
Absolutely. I fully support, first of all, your advocacy that everybody going for high public office must do a drugs screening. We don't want drug addicts running our governments and its agencies.
Most dangerous is drug barons.
Exactly, who have been involved in trafficking and all that. One of the issues that have come up in recent years when this issue broke into the media was treatment facilities.
Yeah.
There are very few medical facilities for treating drug addicts and people who have become mentally challenged. And the traditional houses, Gidamari, is that where, were being accused of being torture chambers. First of all, what's the situation on treatment in general, and what's the way forward?
You're right, Malanjubo, we don't have enough treatment centers. And even where we have enough treatment centers, we don't have enough personnel. Because it's not everybody that's trained to deal with a drug addict. And so where you have, I know very few, I can count, honestly, less than 10 professional doctors that understand drugs and how to deal with drug addictions that I know of. With nurses, it's even worse. Because people that have drug addiction, they're sick. It's an illness. is an entity that needs to go through a particular rhythm of affairs to be able to get over. It's no amount of beating, no amount of abuse will change them. Their brain has been affected. And once you're a drug addict, for you to go back completely back to normal without tendency to go back, it takes about 2 years. So because the neurons have been affected, one's perception and interpretation of things have been affected. So we need to invest, not just in training nurses and doctors, but in training community members to be able to handle it. For example, in Borno, we're training a lot of community members to learn about psychotherapy, psychosocial support to victims of insurgency and victims of Boko Haram. This is something that we should do, and it's not difficult, especially in our culture.
Okay, Dr. Mandara, we have just 1 minute left, and I always want to pose this question. We're a few months before the elections, and there are lots of concerns about whether it will take place, whether it will be successful. So my question is, are you an optimist or a pessimist on the outcome of the elections?
I'm absolutely convinced, and I'm optimistic the election will take place. Now, on the outcome of the election, it all depends on us Nigerians. We've got to this time make up our mind to actually vote for the most credible candidate that we feel can move this country forward. And that means we've got to do everything within our power to ensure that we vote, we protect our vote, and it is counted and it makes sense. And where money is brought out to be paid, please Nigerians, take the money but do the right thing.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mary Mandara. This has been a wonderful conversation, very rich. You have been living a very rich life of service. Your involvement in charity work has been really very inspirational. Your work in development and the current work you are doing in terms of trying to move your own state, which has been ravaged by 14 years of insurgency, forward by addressing its core problems, is really something that should be commended in this society. Thank you very much, Dr. Mandara, for sharing your contribution to society with us.
Thank you very much. I'm honored to be on this show. Thank you.